here. There's another set of Cathara grids. See them going this way? When we've done chakra diagrams, we've used the D3 level of our outer light body Cathara grid to show those. So this would be the D3 Cathara grid. This would be the density level. Remember, there are 4 sheaths, D1, D2, D3, and then the density level one around that, right, which is different than D4. You know, it's similar but different. This has been what we were looking at in diagrams when we looked at the embedded Cathara grids of the physical body system. So our light body structure is at a 45-degree angle, where the 9 Cathara center would be on our light on our light body is where the 12 point is of our Rasha body. So we've been looking at Rasha for a while, so I put this one as the one that's running vertical right now. What you get when you take this and put it back the way we're used to looking at the Cathara manual and that kind of thing. Can I see the next one, please? Yep. It gives you this. Now, that's this, right? When you look at these diagrams as if you are the diagram. That's how they're designed. So this is the right. There's a little head over the shoulder in the mentor space. From Cathara 1, they were teaching us this stuff, the entry levels. When they talked about the mentor space and opening the mentor space over here, over your right shoulder, that's where your Rasha body head would be, right? And when you go into Christ Star activation, you progressively shift your angular rotation of particle spin into that first, and then from there you can shift into the bigger shifts that are needed to go through a full starfire cycle. But our mentor has been ourselves all along. It's been the part of ourselves that is in the Rasha stage, because we have a part of our identity and consciousness in there too, just like we have a part in density 2 and density 3 going up the light body, outer light body chain. We also have the parts that go inward. So our mentor has been a very good mentor that meant us well, because it is a part of us. So we are becoming our mentors. We're becoming our own mentors, basically. Next one, please. Oh, I can see the table through the pile now. It's not that I don't love this information. It's just, it gets really tiring sometimes, trying to explain it all. Now, when we talk about Christ Star, when the Christ Star vehicle fully activates, this is called the Christ Star crystal capsule. Crystalline capsule forms around and in your fields. And we'll show you what the Rasha body and the field levels do in relation to that in a minute. There's another diagram. But it allows you, this is like, say this is Earth down here. Think of jet propulsion. If you start getting hot feet, as you go, as you begin working with these type of activations, it has to do with the chakras in your feet, around the balls of your feet, and the ones in your heels as well, where you may find hot foot happening sometimes. There will be a point in time once the body matter is de-densified to a sufficient level where it's not going to get fried by those frequencies. You couldn't activate a Christ Star vehicle right now. You'd vaporize your body, because the matter particles have to be gently and slowly and in the right sequence re-spiritualized and de-densified by the natural processes inherent to Rasha body activation, where the right sets of frequencies come in at the right times and those kind of things. But it will eventually get to the point when you hit that 0G state, you can levitate, first of all. You can go into full orb, which means completely turn into light, not just lighter matter, right? It's an amazing new world. It is a new world. It is a world like nothing that we've had here for a very, very long time, but we've seen little glimpses in sci-fi and that kind of stuff on TV and in movies and books and that kind of stuff. Those things are just little bits of race memory left behind. About once upon a time, somebody could do this. Or maybe we just wished we could. Angelic humans should be able to orb. A 12-strand pattern should be able to orb. Most things, which means go into some degree of starfire. Same thing with animals. The original animal forms on this planet would have been able to go through a version of it. It is a complete lie that animals and plants don't have souls. That's why when people get upset with me, oh, why don't you tell people how terrible it is to eat meat and just convince them to be vegans and stuff. It's like nothing against people that are vegan, and if you feel better that way, that's fine. I love things with faces too, but I see faces on carrots and heads of lettuce. Did you ever hear a carrot scream when you cut it? They do. Did you ever see the bleeding that happens when you shred vegetables? There isn't a difference in compromising an animal or a vegetable, or a human being, actually. Eventually, once we get to Ascension Earth levels, we will get training in understanding some of those things better. It's not held against us. Some of the things that are normal to do here that are horrendously violating to other things. Because right now, you can't just say, I quit all of it, because you'll kill your body. And if you kill your body, you're going to get stuck in the grids here. Your body right now is your salvation. If it dies of natural causes, that's okay, as long as you're activating these frequencies. If the body just can't handle it, or if you decide on some level of yourself that, you know, I have a chance to incarnate immediately into an hedonic body of an we call it an aquafairy body. It's another regenesis program that is part aquafarian human and part our generations of humans. So there is the option in the host to, if you feel that you're not going to make it with the body, don't let that terrify you. All right, a proper bardo, if the body can't hold it, will come automatically, but it will be a bardo that there's an intervention on that allows an immediate incarnation up into the new earth ascension field. So you will be able to incarnate directly there. That's an option that's not usually there unless there's a fully hosting system, which there is here. So by using the technologies that will assist us to get through a full ascension with the bodies we have, even if there's something in the body that can't keep up with the pace or whatever, you will still automatically catch a line into the new earth and have, it will actually be a version of this body, its coding as it would have been at 33, combined with a portion of your own consciousness from Eartha that has a piece of your Eartha self, because we have portions of ourselves there. And they hold part of our, our query codes. They came from there originally. There's a little bit of a query in everybody in seeding 3 because of the regenesis efforts that were done between 12,500 BC, there was another one 11,500 BC, 11,000 BC, 10,000 BC was the last one. So there, from that period, they're recent periods of regenesis, there are still coding alive. So it's not, I don't think they're ever going to give severe bardo training, right? Where, oh gosh, you're going to die, or, this group of people is going to die, so we've got to train them how to do this, or they're going to get caught and have to, and get shredded through the ring of fire, and then at least they'll get to go back to the Edens. There will be a lot of people that take that path, and believe me, it's better than the fall path. But there is, because the host is here, and as long as the host is still here, and we have the Geridome and the ascension earth that it generates, we will be able to, anybody that are working with these frequencies, that work with the simple crystal heart healing technologies that are going to come out about this, will be able to actually automatically, if the body won't make it through this, there will be an automatic intervention by the connection to Eartha that, working with the Adashi techniques, will actually give you. And you will be able to be taken through up into the Adashi things and what are called the Aurora platforms. And you would be able to immediately choose what kind of incarnation you want that looks kind of like you, but has some upgraded coding that would clear the karmic miasmic imprint that blocked the body you had from getting through. All right? Because some people may have, it may be a time thing. That, yeah, if I had like 6 more centuries, I could slowly get through the regenesis, but we don't have that long right now. So you don't have to be afraid of death. While the host is here, if you're working consciously with the frequencies, even if you're just doing the meditation tapes, it's going to come down to a very easy program. A program that we can just put meditation tapes out there in the New Age movement, probably with a different publishing name on them, because we're like the black sheep of the New Age movement. Everybody hates us because they're teaching Metatronic science and we exposed it. Anyway, it will be something that not just coming to workshops should be able to do, but we're trying to get a product line they haven't given us exactly what they want out there yet, but they want to reach people in 2 ways. Through DNA activation art, where they're actually training me to be an artist. So we can do paintings and have a cover identity as an artist and get paintings out there. Right now they have me doing 3 murals. Well, I did 1 and now there's 2 others in progress. Canvases would be nice, they're smaller. But these are things they're paintings, this is what they have me doing. Paintings that will actually hold the frequencies, that just by somebody looking at them, if there's anything in them that has the desire for the ascension, it will automatically begin the linking them in to the host waves that is being set here by the Aquafarian shield, that is being run by the people who are conscious and care enough to learn about this and to do it consciously. So they're using art, and they're going to use meditation tapes as well. They will be assisting people with music. There are many musicians among us. I'm not one of them, but there are many, and they will be assisting with music. They will be assisting with art. They're in the creative forms, because there's going to come a time when there's just too many words and too little time. We're getting real close to that right now. With the amount of technicals that need to be explained, sometimes a picture or a dance can paint 1,000 words and run the frequency and the cognition that needs to be there. And you can slow it down and write it down later. There will be a time when we hit that point, but it's not yet, so we'll still keep going with the words. So that is the Christ star vehicle when it's in full ascension. There would be a big orb around it. There's numerous orbs inside of it. You've got your auric layers, each layer having its crystal orbing. And when you go into full orb, the body would actually disappear inside, and the whole field, all the polarization layers would disappear, and it would be just one field of spirit consciousness. It would be half spirit and half manifest consciousness. And then you could turn into various orb sizes of light and go wherever, and then remanifest yourself and slow down and become manifest again. That's what we're aiming for. It's such a hoot to do it. It really is, and it really did. We've probably been through at least one where we got through one to some degree, even if it was only a planetary level or a solar level, where we at least got up to the next density level, so we know what it feels like to fly, because that's what it's like. You don't need to be an angel with wings if you know how to fly with the Christ. The wings are just energy constructs. You don't need to be bird people to be able to fly, and technically, you don't need to be Albert Einstein to figure out the way the universe works. So, we're at an interesting point now. Let's see, I think we're going into now. I'm going to do these quick. I'm ready to fall over. Another one. That's just showing it to you clearer, without other stuff all over it. All right, you have shields. Shields rotating, all that kind of stuff. All right. Every one of these is extremely technical. Another one? Ah, yes, this shows you the Christ Star vehicle. You will see this shape inside what is called the crystal heart code. All right, it's at the center of it, and it is an elevator. An elevator forms where there's a chamber that runs down and the chamber that runs up, and allows you to go from Earth to Ascension Earth, up to Eartha, if you can hold the frequency to go full Christ Star activation. Then there's another set that takes you from Eartha to Sirius B in density 2, and another from Sirius B. There's also another way to go over through the Sala gates, which is not as high a jump as going directly to the Sirius B one. You can go over and then over to the Sala one, which is what we're going to do tomorrow night, and then into the Sirius B one from USG4. So at USG3 Eartha to USG4 Sala, over to USG6 in the Edon levels, which would be Sirius B. So anyway, this, you'll see that form of the Christ Star as an intrinsic part of what are called the Navajo passages. The Navajo passages are the spanner gate systems that are part of the gyrodome construction that is part of the host. And it is a Christic host construction. So anyway, that's just showing you that looks like that in relation to the fields of the Rasha. Now, what does that mean? If our body was bigger, remember how our body was bigger and our Rasha was little? Right, we had our little Rasha mentor self over our shoulder. If this is the Rasha body, when we go into full Christ Star, we got small when we went into orb. So the orbs are smaller, because out here would have been the big size of the body. So when you go into orb, when you pull into a Christ Star to move from one place to another, you actually condense your energy, bring it in, and then re-expand it back out into light body. You pull into Rasha. So your whole form actually gets smaller, more energized, and more condensed. And you get to the point where you can take it right down to a single point of light. And you go, really tiny orb. And then bring it back out into manifestation when you get to the place that you want to go to. That's what time travel is about, space-time travel. That's what ascension is about using the right gates to get into the right cycles so you can be part of the living life flow of the Akashi going back to the Adashi and the eternal Christic circulation of energy between first creation source and its manifestations. Next one, please. Almost there. This is just something you'll see tomorrow because we'll use them. These are what we've talked about the ring tones and the span tones that directly activate the bodies. And there's a certain configuration to use them in. And you have a better copy of this. You typeset this, didn't you? Somebody did. So I remember seeing a typeset copy, but I don't have one. But these are the tones that we were using in Peru to do the rapid activations of the finishing the Rashala body activations and doing the core activations of the Rasha A body core, Rasha A body, no, Rasha A body core, when there. And we used them to assist in anchoring them. Once there's a little tiny group of people, just local people that kind of spontaneously showed up together and visiting us at Shalon, or at our house where we're living at Shalon, which is one of the key sites to anchoring Spanner 7. And we ended up, they said, would you do this too? Just go out and do this in the atrium and do these activations, just do the tones. And we did. And then they told us later what that was about. Oh, we just anchored it for them because the Adore there was a changing of the guard where the Ettore, or the Aquafarian races of Earth here, because we're in such of a dire straits on this planet. This is an awfully big mission, and we're trying to learn as fast as we can to get the bodies up as fast as we can. But there are certain obligations that went with that contract of the Aquafarian shield that were handed over to the Adore side of the Aquafarian races, because they're not in a fall position like we are. So they could handle it better, so we could focus on the bioregenesis and getting our shields up as fast as possible so we could make the transitions. And that happened. When was that? That was after Peru, right? And before something else. Can't remember. It was not too far after Peru, which was in May. I think it was in June, wasn't it? Do you remember? I don't know. It's written someplace in this massive file called History Stuff that I keep trying to assemble a history book. And I can't even, I've got all sorts of bits of history, but even from the year 2000 AD to now, the last 7 years, all of the stuff that has gone down on this planet with the invisible war that's been taking place, it's just like someday we'll have time to sit down and keep track of it. But we use these tones, and we'll be using them again, and they're going to show us other ways to use them. Because once you're using them for not just activating your astral body, elemental command becomes a joyful thing. Because you can play with clouds, and you can send them pictures, and they'll say, okay, and they'll do that. They'll make shapes for you. You can start to see what are called the cloud cities and actually physically access the right ones, because there are some not nice things up there in our skies too. There's all sorts of things. When we will start playing with tones, this is the first part of activating the Rasha bodies, but there's all sorts of songs to sing that bring the elemental forces together in natural Christic ways for all sorts of different things, of manifesting, healing, all sorts of things. So anyway, next one please. Almost there. Well, that set's not even in there, is it? I'm going to jump right in here. Okay. This is taking ages. Anyway, this is just showing the same, the core, the inner, the middle, the outer, the Adashi cycles. And this was just showing all sorts of technical stuff. You know what? I am going to do this in the morning. Before you do that, I will come down and do this last set. I just realized I haven't even touched the vertical map set yet, and I need an hour for that, and I'm not going to do that tonight to get to Eye of God set. All right. Okay. They just said do the Eye of God set right before they go into the Eye of God meditation, so it's fresh, so the sequence is fresh. That makes sense. Okay, thank you. Did you do that, or it sounds like them? That's coming vertical direct. It's not coming at an angle. Sometimes you can feel the line. That's part of learning way back. Had to learn to distinguish the line so we could tell when anybody was trying to tap it and do nasty stuff or send words in that didn't belong. We went through all sorts of stuff of learning to tell what a line was, where it was coming from, who it was, and whether it was authorized to access or touch my fields or not. And we have a lot of protection when we work with that. But that's why we've managed to, despite all sorts of people out there in the FA land that don't like me at all, would have loved to have chewed me up and spit me out by now, they haven't been able to touch the work. They can harass me, they can wear me out, make my fields tired, But what they have not been able to do is tap the line and change the meaning. And the beloveds make sure of that. And they know that I would actually activate something in my body that would kill it instantly before that would happen, if they ever got me in a compromised position. That's part of a speaker contract, actually, where there's an out clause that if anything gets in and you're going to get snatched, you have an obligation to drop the body there. They'll get you out to Eartha, but you've got to, you can't let something run around with those gate codes opened and with the knowledge that they can pull and twist and make a mess of. So anyway, yeah, what we'll do, this I'm just showing, this I'm going to start with tomorrow. This is part of the new stuff that's just coming in, showing the cycles. All right, what we're going to talk about when we get into the Eye of God, I will show you a picture of the structure of the Eye of God. All right, and I've already let you know that all the way at that first creation point, right, before the Taran's born, that is where the first one is created. And it's part in the spirit body behind the first creation point door and part in the manifest field. And it is from there that the first and core currents emerge, the tunnel of love, the lava. It's also known as the Christ blood, the blood of the Christ. And it is, they call it, I think it's pearlescent silvery white when we take the journey. So when we get into that more heavily, I'm going to show you that before it's going to be the last thing I'm going to leave you with. But this, when we talk about how the Eye of God forms, that takes a while because there's a sequence. Of course, there's always a sequence in time. But it has to do with the triad forms, and then something happens at the end of the little triad, Partike 1 and Partike 2 cycle. The triad cycle is the first trimester of the Siddha cycle. And then something happens where that triad actually crystallizes. It starts to pull into the center, and it gets condensed and crystallized with what would have been the spark 4 of the triad, and it forms what's called the Kusha crystal. And then the Kusha crystal starts quantum replicating, going in and coming back out at times x its quantum. And that is how the Eye of God structure is built. And some of them come out in front of the creation point door, some behind. And this is where you start to get the bases of matter, be it 1/3 out, 1/3 out, 1/2 out, 2/3 out, 3/3 out, or 3/3 in, like the spiritual body, in front of or in back of the creation point door. So that has to do, that cycle that we will start with when we come into tomorrow. I'm going to go through the Adashi maps to show you where the Adashi temples are. They're saying that's better to do it that way, even if I have to put down my pen because I'm going to be in translation then. Come down to do what I was going to do next. Because there's another pack. I'm looking at that and saying, oh, it's getting thinner, it's getting thinner. Oh my God, I just finished Prana cycle, I think. Oh, yeah, we didn't even touch part 2 yet. Yeah, but we will. Part 2 flows, and there's not huge amounts of new data yet in there. Maybe there's going to be. That's why they're going to do it tomorrow. You'll still get it. But here's where it's called the Akusha cycle, where the Kusha forms right here at the end of the triad cycle. And then the Akushate complex forms. And the Eye of God structure is the beginning part of the Akushate. And then after all that happens, that's the second trimester. In the third trimester, this is where you have the Rushate structure of the spirit body forming. And I think that's half in and half out, but I'm not sure because that's the stuff we don't have yet, that all these diagrams need to be done, right, by tomorrow. And then when that's finished, there's the Rishate cycle, where the Risha body, the spirit body, is formed. And from that comes the birth of the Taran. All right. So this is the stage we're going to go into tomorrow. We're going to talk about this. But the Eye of God is part of this one. And I will leave that as the last image, actually, that I think we look... Oh, that? All right. Right. The Eye of God image and the crystal heart image, which is the shape of a spanner gate, but it is also the shape of the fields that activate in your own fields when you go into Christ Star activation. So it is a natural configuration. It's not somebody decide they're going to make a gate this shape. The gates are the shape. They're like chambers running, like tubular chambers that run, and they kind of make a sort of like a figure 8, but it's not exactly a figure 8 shape. But they are chambers. Imagine as if you could like go inside of them like big tunnels. They curve, right? And there's a central column that runs up that is like an elevator chamber that runs between Earth and Eartha. And the mid-stop point, I believe, it would be the first beginning parts of the Ascension Earth, the Gyrodome Aurora Field Earth. So anyway, we'll cover this stuff. This is stuff that's just incoming. But at least we got these placed, where when we talk about the cycles, this is the Hara cycle. Here, this whole thing refers to the Hara cycle. And the first part of the Hara cycle would be here, and that's the Kali Krista. No, the Kali, what is it called? Kali Hara starts here. And we go through, and I believe it's here, so I'm still trying to figure these out, which part of the Kali is what's fit where. Here's the first 45-degree shift. That would take us to that point where we could do the half and half. It's considered the halfway point in the Christ star activation. That would be the point where we could begin to slide, where we would have the biological ability to de-densify the matter enough to enter slide zones physically. The glide zones and slide zones and span zones are all the same zones, except spans go all the way up to the spanner gates, go all the way up to Eartha for full-on starfire, which is full-on entering Adashi activation. Then we have the halfway point, which would be going into the ascension earth fields that are a step down from Eartha but a step up from Earth. And that is called sliding. And then what we do first is the beginning activations, where we're kind of like entering the base of the gate sets. And that is what we do when we project, when we glide. They call it gliding. Then you learn to slide, then you learn to span, maybe. But even if you can only slide right now, slide to the ascension Earth will get us to the point where we will be able to eventually span with ascension Earth and go through a full Christ star Adashi turnaround. Anyway, let me find the Eye of God picture. First, the Eye of God, yeah. Which one do we have there? Because some of them, yeah, that's a decent one. After many, many thingies that happen, yes, this structure forms. If you look at this side as, let's say, Source projected its energy out ahead of itself, the focus of its consciousness, like creation point was right there, right? Things in front of the creation point, in the direction of the source beam coming from behind, would be going into manifestation. And things behind would be in what's called the spirit body. This structure that I think we're only seeing the first 7 cells of the Eye of God structure, and it gets bigger too, and these got here by a very complex set of charts that showed what's in front of the door, what's behind the door, what's a third out, what's 2/3 back. I mean, we had to. This, for instance, this one with a little star around it, that is the Kusha crystal that we talked about, that the triad finally compresses at the end of its cycle and turns into a Kusha crystal. And it has a particular structure. There's certain things inside of it, but for now it's just showing the shape and where it's placed in the Eye of God. All right, this is the creation point door right there, going from where we are out here in the manifest fields through the creation point door back into the spirit body. The whole thing is taking place in the consciousness field of Source, but we have a spirit body that actually spans, and it goes around the entire manifest creation as if we're in one large particle in the consciousness field of Source. But right now, when we go all the way out here, we're in the outer domains, go back to the inner, middle domains, the inner domains, to the core domains. When we get to the end of the core domains, right at the creation point door, that stuff that's behind it, that is where the spirit body starts to form in those Siddha cycles. So the Eye of God is they call it the Eye of God because it actually is structures of lenses. These are spheres within spheres, and they're structured very similar to an eye, a literal eyeball, as far as the shapes that come out here. In fact, at some point, yeah, I think they already showed me, like, we're 3, right?